Like dealing with this, I'm like, I'm really paying for being 6'4". Like the universe had to balance that out. They're like,
they poured too much in the height bowl.
But none in the impulse control. I got no skill points in impulse control.
People have really intense reactions of disgust. It's like, homophobia is kind of like, do you feel like they can turn you? Like there's a susceptibility behind it. Yeah, like your level of disgust is kind of indicting you.
Yeah. Sir, thou doth protest too much.
Yeah, exactly. Because I think anger is so freaking powerful.
If you can channel
at carving out standards for your life. Like it is the emotion to drive you to action more than anything else. You're listening to Catharsis Sessions. I'm Dashiell Wolf. The methodology we're going to be using today is Catharsis Method. It's our philosophy and framework for healthy emotional processing designed into a deck of cards. You'll see those on the table as we go through. And my guest today is Vadim, a person who is very special to me, but one so unique that his eclectic accomplishments and dynamic qualities will be let down by any attempt to describe them. Because on paper, notable details are that Vadim is originally from Russia. He's a former professional MMA fighter, a skilled table tennis player, and an adept marketing professional. But in person, there is a warmth, a wisdom, and a self-awareness to Vadim that you simply have to witness to understand. What Vadim has chosen to take a closer look at today is something that lives in the shadow of many high-functioning people, a pull toward pleasure-seeking spirals, and the quiet work it takes not to let those take over. The following session is curious, particularly self-reflective, and honest. Let's begin. Vadim.
Dashiell.
Hello, how are you?
I'm doing well. How are you?
I'm good. I'm genuinely so excited about this.
Yeah, I'm hoping you can fix me.
Yeah, we'll see. I can read you some cards. Because, so you and I, it's crazy to think, how long have we been friends now? It's
October,
been
maybe?
Yeah. It's only been a couple months.
Yeah.
But genuinely, I'm not just buttering your biscuit, but you're one of the most well-spoken, self-aware men in my life.
Not a high bar, but I'll take it.
That's unfortunately true. Let me pay the compliment, goddammit. But really, I feel like we've had a lot of deep conversations, and I always walk away have a conversation with Keely after the fact to be like, damn, like I like talking to Vadim.
Yeah. I mean, I think that's why we haven't known each other that long, but it feels like it's been a lot longer just because we're both very open and like we always get into it.
Yeah. And I'm curious, have you done anything like this before? Have you done like therapy? What's your go-to introspection?
I journal quite a bit. I have done therapy, but not like consistently.
Okay.
It's like been a while. So. Done some couples therapy.
Oh yeah. And do you consistently journal? I actually didn't know you journaled.
I try to. It kind of comes in spurts. We'll probably end up touching on this later. When I'm on top of it, I try to journal pretty consistently, but sometimes I fall off and gets time consuming. And,
Okay, maybe this is too personal of a question, but what type of journaler are you? Like, is it like a retelling of events? Like today I went to school and I played with my friends. Or is it more about like, what is life?
It's a mix, because when I first started, that was kind of my apprehension with journaling, is I didn't really know how to do it. And so I would end up just like cataloging everything that happened that day. And I would skip a couple days and it would take me like 3 hours trying to. And I was almost using it because I don't have the best memory. I don't know how you feel, but like I can't remember what I had for breakfast or whatever. Yeah, I was like, so I would be writing stuff down. But after a while, it just got too time consuming, and I started to journal just when I would like make a important observation, when like something would happen, and either I noticed something about my reaction, or just I had some kind of insight, then I would just like write that down. So it got more brief. I mean, I would still lightly touch on, the events around it, but it became more about making observations and like trying to lock away insights and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I think there's also something just like very cathartic about journaling.
Oh, it's almost like meditating, honestly.
Yeah.
And the funny thing is I would put it off. Like I just had this aversion to doing it because it's one of those maintenance things, which is, kind of what we're going to be covering. But like, I would have this aversion to doing it. And then as soon as I would start, my mind would just go clear. And I'd be like, why do I put this off every single time when it feels great? Just like the act of journaling.
Yeah. And it really does. Like I just finished reading a book where they talked about some pretty extensive studies where they would have groups journal as like their only means of kind of like a therapy. In just a matter of like a couple weeks, a group doing something as simple as just like doing a 1-page journal had like a tremendous impact on their mental health.
Yeah.
I think it's just like similar to like talk therapy. Like it's nice to talk about the experience.
One, it also just like it gets the things out of your head. It's almost like you're able to release them because you got it down on paper. Now you're like, okay, it's stored there. I don't need to carry it in my head. But also it just like gives you a reminder because I mean, I don't know how you are, but I've had to learn the same lessons over because you just forget stuff. But when you're like cataloging it or like taking notes in class, it just kind of like locks it away. So if a similar situation comes up, you'd be like, oh yeah, this happened last time. You know what I mean? You're more equipped for it. It just makes you more aware of these things, basically.
Totally. And like obviously putting words to let's just say stressful things, it's obviously like really nice, but also I don't know about you, but like anytime I write, let's say a letter to a person, I get really emotional. Like as soon as and it's like any kind of a positive light. If I'm talking about a person or a place or a memory positively, like a lot of times I'll get emotional and I'm like, wow, just taking the time to think about the qualities or the memories that you liked about a thing and putting your pen on the paper. Yeah. And suddenly I'm like, this is the most meaningful thing ever.
Yeah. Another thing for me I've noticed too is that like sometimes the act of journaling will unlock insight. So like sometimes I'll sit down when I already have something figured out to write it down, but sometimes I'm just describing a situation, whether it's like stressful or uncomfortable or whatever. And as I'm doing it, because in order to write it down, you have to think it through. So it kind of like unlocks these things where you're like, oh, wait, I just realized, this and this. Totally. And then you start, because it forces you to like really think about every piece because in order to write it, you have to like understand it. You have to put words to it.
And things seem like they make sense in our head, but a lot of times as soon as you say it out loud or write it down, you're like, oh, that makes no sense. And so it forces things to prove themselves a little bit. Were you and I talking about IFS the other day, internal family systems? Oh, maybe not. Okay, but it's I know this is weird, but it's a form of therapy, kind of just recognizing that we all have sub-personalities, like different parts that argue for different things in our brain. Kind of like multiple personalities.
I got that bad.
And IFS is really cool because as soon as you can kind of like separate yourself from the parts, it's like a lot easier to reason with it, recognizing them not as yourself. But it's kind of crazy. But probably the weirdest way I used to journal is I would have 3 pens, black, blue, and red, and I would change pens depending on like which voice was talking.
I can't tell you how reassuring this is because I honestly thought that I was like maybe a little insane and like this didn't happen to other people. That's very reassuring to hear.
Okay, good. Because sometimes like I get in little debates in my own head where I'm like, well, we got to do that. Well, no. Because
I'm like, whose side are you on? All right.
And I'll go back and forth between the blue and the red.
You trying to mess this up for us? Like, are you on this team or not?
Yeah. And so a little bit crazy. I was always worried someone would find my journal and be like, do we need to
commit
lock
this
him
guy?
up? Got a padded room waiting for him. Okay, well, it makes me happy to hear that it doesn't sound crazy to you. Well, if we are ready to jump into it, what is the situation that you are wanting to process?
So the thing that I'm wanting to process, and it's not like a specific situation, it's more of like it's more nebulous, like a state of being, I would say, rather than like a specific thing. Essentially, I have a very unique constellation of traits that has made my life both interesting and very difficult. I have like pretty severe ADHD, and I'm very high on sensation seeking. And so all of these things have just caused like some issues throughout my life. It was very turbulent. When I was younger, I was like a really wild, reckless dude. And over time, I've made like drastic changes. I mean, you've heard some of the stories, like people that have met me recently can't believe like the things that I've been through. And I'm honestly proud of that I don't even identify with that person anymore. I feel like a completely different person. But part of that is I kind of struggle with maintenance. So I'm really good at digging myself out of a hole. So when things are very bad, like the ADHD thing, I'm great in a crisis. Like my brain becomes laser focused. My grit is unmatched. I have an iron will. Like I am great at getting something done when things are very hard and when there's pressure. But then when, you know, you get out of a hole and things are going pretty well and you've created some distance between, you know, that catastrophe and where you're at now, I have a really hard time just doing the things that I need to maintain, because it's not fun, it's not sexy, you're not getting the same feedback. It just is like work, and it starts to feel like a prison. And so I feel like I've kind of stalled in my personal development because I've made this huge gain from the person that I used to be, and now the waves are much more shallow, but I'm kind of like, stuck in this part, and it's just like very frustrating.
What is that quote you've often said that I love?
I alternate between viewing my mind as a unstoppable force and an inescapable prison.
Yes, I love that quote because it's very relatable.
Yeah.
But would that kind of summarize a little bit of what we're getting at? Is the inescapable prison aspects of that?
Absolutely.
Okay. So that's a really good self-aware interpretation of everything. But if we were to try and restate it in just a very matter-of-fact way, it's that, is it kind of like your relationship with comfort turns into bad habits that you struggle to regulate?
Yeah. And essentially it's like, over the course of going through many of these cycles with like substance abuse and reckless, erratic behavior, I've created some guardrails that make it so that I never dig the hole too deep. It never gets to a point where it's a crisis, but I'm not living life in an optimal way. And I may be like making bad decisions and have bad habits, but they're not bad enough for it to be an issue. So it's really hard to fight against them, basically. You know what I mean? It's like, I'm not going to lose my job or my home or whatever, but you know, maybe I just kind of suck to be around and I waste too much money and I'm just like not living up to my potential, basically.
And is it a little bit that you function at a high level amidst dysfunction?
Yeah, that's the problem.
And you function dysfunctionally amidst good things.
Yeah, I'm like the quintessential like gifted ADHD kid. Like I was in advanced placement in middle school and high school, but I, for the life of me, could not do my homework until the paper was due the next day. And then I would scramble, stay up all night, and I would get a good grade. But that was every time. It was like me and homework were like two magnets of the same polarity. It was just like this aversion. I just like couldn't. Half my college textbooks are still in my mom's basement in the plastic because I'd never opened them. I wrote like some upper division papers like the night before, and it was only because I had classmates. I was at the strip club high and drunk, and one of my classmates texted me, was like, hey, do you have your part of the paper? And I'm like, oh. Honestly, if it wasn't for the team, I probably would have just been like, whatever, I'll fail. But I didn't want to let these other people down, so I drive home, and I'm so intoxicated, I can't even like figure out what the paper is about. It it was an international marketing class. It was like product penetration in South Korea or something. So I'm popping Adderall, drinking coffee, and looking up like .gov sites to get, whatever. And I got it done.
Wow.
And I sent it off, and then I went back out and got high and drunk with my friends more.
Mm-hmm. And did you get a good grade?
Yeah, I think we got like a B plus, something like that. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And you had a good ass time.
Yeah. Had a fantastic
I mean, I don't
time.
think we need to get into it. That sounds pretty sick. So we're good.
Like, well,
Oh,
if
got
you're
a
getting
good
away
grade
with it.
and you had fun at the strip club, damn. Don't change anything. Okay, well, that's a big situation.
Yeah.
There's a lot wrapped up in that, a lot of layers, and your relationship with a few different things. But because I relate to a lot of it, I am excited to do this because I feel like I'll be getting the same insights you do.
Yeah.
Okay, so...
Another bonding moment.
Oh, dude, with so many. Okay, so we've got our situation. It's kind of large, so we'll start to zero in a little bit. This first half awareness is, we don't want to judge or censor anything right now. So we shouldn't get into too many interpretations and, I know I need to do that. Let's just let things out as raw and pathetic and, whatever as they are. Okay. And we'll start to challenge things and regulate on the second half. But for this one, just... what's the line that I have here? Honesty and non-judgment is key. Be present. Don't create answers to these questions. Instead, only acknowledge the answers that are already there. So, jumping in, our 3 pillars are observation, empathy, and intuition. And our little grid that we're going to make, these are kind of the headers of the columns, which are stimulus and the triggers, which is followed by our first thoughts or the initial appraisal, and then the emotion itself. And every emotion has a biological function, and that motivates behaviors to carry out that function. And while our emotions are rarely as nice and linear as that, this is kind of just a nice way to see what the emotional experience is like from start to finish.
Right.
Yeah, so this is going to be a little bit tough considering your situation first, but we're going to pick 3 emotions that you feel most in regard to that situation, to kind of the state of affairs in your mind and in your habits and your relationship with comfort, your relationship with the chips being down or however we want to say it, self-sabotage, all that stuff. So let me give you just a quick little explainer on the 8 primary emotions. This is based on Dr. Plutchik, his emotion theory. He took Darwin's theory of emotions, which is that creatures, animals have emotions because they adapted through evolution. It's not some spiritual thing. It's like emotions exist in all living things, and they have developed to benefit the organism. Right. There are not bad and good emotions. They are all trying to help you. Yeah. And so there's really good things that we can learn from all of these emotions. So they kind of function in 4 pairs is the way that I view it. So the first is sadness and joy, which both deal with the possession of things that we value and whether we lost possession or whether we gained possession, something we care about. Next is fear and anger, which are, they both deal with threats, and they take an opposite approach. Anger seeks to confront and remove a threat by making yourself big and loud, and fear seeks to avoid the threat by making yourself small and hiding. Then we have trust and disgust. These both deal with kind of like the values or the attributes of someone or something in your proximity and whether their values align to your own or misalign to your own. If you kind of sense that the values of a person or a thing align to yours, you're more, the behaviors of trust are to welcome them in, to embrace them, welcome to the family. But if they're misaligned, it motivates behaviors through disgust of like, pushing them out, ostracizing them, vilifying them, or literally like vomiting something. Mm-hmm. Your body can feel a physical disgust in that it feels something is misaligned that you ate and it will, eject it from your body. And then last is anticipation and surprise, which deal with new territory or change that is either coming or has already happened that will impact you. Mm-hmm. So, how do you want to approach identifying emotions within your situation? Do we want to look at kind of the emotions that maybe you feel at the peak moments when this is aware and on the top of your mind, or maybe in the moments of spiraling when the habits are bad, or where do we want to go to try and find some emotions?
It's not normally when the habits are bad. It's normally in kind of the maintenance mode before it becomes unbearable, where it's like, oh, I'm going to have to do this forever. I have to constantly be aware of this thing to not let it get away from me. Mm-hmm. And so I would say sadness. I mean, based on the levels of intensity, if bummed, so, disappointed or, depressed, if that falls into sadness, then I would say definitely. Sadness is up there.
Okay.
Anger. And it's not like intense, but yeah, frustrated is on there. So like frustration for sure, like the having to deal with this. Mm-hmm. And then probably it's kind of interesting because we're just talking about me with myself, but I would say disgust because it's a misalignment of, the thing that I aspire to versus like what is actually happening. So probably those three.
100%. I think shame is a really good example of disgust kind of turned inward, where we're recognizing some value or something about ourselves that we don't like. Yeah. So that's a good one. Do you want to go with those three, or do either of those three?
Yeah, I think those are most fitting.
Okay, I think they're good. Okay, so on the levels of arousal, to hear you say as something as intense as depressed, so pretty high on the arousal of sadness?
I would say in the middle, lost is probably closer because it feels kind of like hopeless sometimes. Mm-hmm. Like, this will be endless. Mm-hmm. And it just like is such a struggle.
Okay. And how about these two? Is the anger intense?
I would say frustrated. It's not like very intense, but it's like, more than annoyed, but yeah, right in that range. So it's not like super intense.
Okay. That's good for me on this one, because I definitely have had particularly bad moments in my life where I've related to what you're talking about, and it's full on like enraged. And I've had moments where I'm just screaming at myself, home alone, and just almost like a drill sergeant, just being like, "You idiot!" Like you know
what's funny is when I was younger, that's how I got stuff done. That drill sergeant really worked for me. I know they say that you're not supposed to talk to yourself that way, but ironically, like the more well-adjusted I've gotten, the less it works. And now I'm just like, this is fine. See, like, I kind of miss that.
Totally. See, like I like all of the emotions, obviously, but anger is one I would love to talk about more, because I think anger is so freaking powerful.
If you can channel
at carving out standards for your life. Like it is the emotion to drive you to action more than anything else. Yeah. And I think that's part of the reason that like a lot of people in similar situations to what you're describing, they have to reach rock bottom before they're able to actually change something. And it's because of that anger. Yeah. Like you have to be suffering to get this anger to push you to action. Yeah. Which I think is so interesting, but especially the idea of like, if you could harness it without having to hit rock bottom. Okay. So, and on the disgust, tell me about that one.
I would say pretty high between loathing and rejecting, because it just is so like, so the vision is so clear, but to not be able to like bring yourself to do it is so frustrating. Especially when like, I think it's especially kind of shameful because I mean, objectively have been given many gifts, you know what I mean? Just from the universe, nature, whatever. And so it's just like to squander from the Lord. I like to joke that like dealing with this, I'm really paying for being 6'4". Like the universe had to balance that out. They're like,
they poured too much in the height bowl.
But none in the impulse control. I got no skill points in impulse control.
Well, let's now order these in order of how much you feel.
Severity.
And the level of intensity is not necessarily what I'm asking, because you could actually feel the lowest level of sadness more than the highest level of one of these.
Yeah, I was gonna say the sadness is probably lower, but I think that's the more potent, ubiquitous one. Like it's more present. Like more often than not, I'm just like bummed about it. I'm not often like enraged. I'm just like, oh, this sucks.
So on the back side of the emotions, there are the emotion combos. So there are 8 primary emotions, but they can combine with each other to form the secondary emotions, which are these, which I think are always kind of interesting to think
Pessimism, about. That's very fitting.
Yep.
Despair.
And I think it was a secondary on disgust is shame, which is the combination of disgust and fear, which is that it's noticing that values within yourself are misaligned, but that in and of itself is a threat to your self-esteem and your identity, which creates shame. So that's the combination of those 2 emotions. Okay, so let's go ahead and dive in. You know, this is a big situation you've chosen to process. And I think the most helpful thing about this exercise is it takes one general feeling of maybe discomfort and breaks it into more digestible layers. And so separating it by emotion, you'll start to realize like, oh, there's a lot of different competing narratives in my head. It's not just one thing like, oh, I'm just fucked up, I'm a loser. Like it's usually like a couple things. And as soon as we can kind of like dissect each of them, then it's like, oh, well, now I know how to tackle this. And it's going to be different. More manageable. This sadness is going to be a very different approach from, anger.
Right.
So the first question, knowing that sadness is losing possession of something that we have attributed value to. What was lost when you're this feeling? What is lost that's generating this feeling of being bummed?
The ability to just like relax and go on autopilot, because my autopilot leads to crashes. And so, just like the ability to move through the world like a regular person. They can just come home and watch TV and eat junk food and, like indulge, but without it getting carried away or impacting like the rest of their life.
So there is a part of you that kind of envies being able to have a lifestyle where you're not having to be hyper vigilant.
I have like very specific, like I said, I'm very high functional, but that's because of like guardrails that I've put in place after making observations, watching cycles. Like I do not look at my phone until like 3 p.m. because if I look at social media first thing in the morning, I will do nothing for the rest of the day. And it just is like coming back to working after scrolling Instagram for a little bit is just like
the worst.
Like I physically cannot do it. Like something inside of me, like 2 magnets with the same poles, they're just like pressing off of each other. So I have certain rules for myself. I don't look at my phone until like 3, until I've gotten some things done. And that way I can like focus and tunnel in. I don't really watch, I will sit down and watch a movie, but I can't just turn something on and just like let it be on. And I can't fall asleep with the TV on. I will stay up watching TV. So I have to like put my phone away at 9 and I have to read before bed. I have like very specific sleep hygiene stuff so as to eliminate like external stimulus that will like exacerbate my ADHD. And so that just gets so annoying. And it's hard to maintain because after a while it feels like a prison. You're just like,
oh yeah. Having to set like timers and alarm clocks and I literally have to set a timer for when I'm allowed to look at my phone. And it feels stupid. But it makes me feel
the annoying thing is like it works so well.
It does.
But like the fact that you have to do it is just like, oh.
It feels like a kid being put in timeout.
It feels like prison. It's just like
timeout. It does feel like prison. I mean, it's a very good answer. And so that sadness is just like feeling as though this regular lifestyle is something that's not on the cards for you.
Yeah.
Okay. So how was it lost? This is going to be a more interesting question.
I mean, you can take your pick of nature versus nurture, but I think for me it was lost over years and many cycles of ups and down and like just making observation and realizing that these things are all connected. You know what I mean? If you have a dopamine regulation issue, then it's all connected. Well, I mean, not everyone is like, you know, to the same degree, like, you know, not everyone with ADHD has substance abuse issues, but if you do happen to be one of those people, then it's all connected. If you get free dopamine from your phone or from video games or whatever, like, eventually that will not be enough. And if you're that type of person that's susceptible to substance abuse, you will start to get restless, and eventually bad things will happen. When I was younger and I was like really reckless and going on benders and stuff like that, you know, I made an effort to quit, and it was easier to stop like the hard stuff because, you know, these are things that are destroying your life, and like it's very obvious that you need to stop doing them. And so, I mean, don't get me wrong, that was still difficult, but, you know, I would observe a cycle and figure out, okay, what happened that time? Why did I relapse? And then I would figure out what was leading to that. But then the other stuff is more difficult because it's not ruining your life. You know what I mean? Like you can get stuff at a smoke shop or a gas station that isn't gonna kill you or make you overdose. You know what I mean? But it just maybe makes you more negative and unpleasant to be around, and, you know, angry and things like that. And so eventually I just realized that these things were connected after observing cycles, you know, one after another. And then eventually even the dumbest person will come to the conclusion like, oh, I can't do any of these things because if I let them persist, then eventually I will get restless and it will not be enough and it will lead back down this hole. So basically through trial and error and awareness is how these things were lost.
Right. So it's kind of like a standard that you want to have in your life matched with the track record of knowing how you are and being like, okay, well, shit, this is how it's going to have to be.
Yeah.
Okay. So those things motivate the sadness. And why, so what we just described, that lifestyle where you wouldn't have to be constantly vigilant and worrying, why is that valuable to you?
To be able to relax, to not be, I mean, I think it's innate that like sometimes you want to shut it off. You don't want to be present. You don't want to be aware. That's why we have these things, why you look at social media or watch movies. You know what I mean? It just provides some relief from the ever-present like reminder of this experience that you're going through.
Well, and like it would be very nice to have a life where you can indulge.
Yeah.
But then not take it too far. Yeah. Moderation.
I saw this funny meme the other day that was like, if I could drink in moderation, then I would do that all the time.
I'll never stop. Okay. Well, I think the answer to that one's kind of obvious.
Yeah.
Okay. So how are you inclined to express your sadness or to react to this ever-present feeling of being bummed?
I think I have a few different ways.
At you?
It comes in waves, but usually by trying to do the things that I'm sad that I'm forced to do. A lot of the times I will distract myself, like riding my bicycle for 60 miles. You know, occasionally journaling or like something healthy, but like, yeah, distraction and stuff like that.
Yeah. I feel like you and I might be similar. I've, in this last year, a thing that I've learned to harness with my procrastination, because I procrastinate a lot, is I have found that my brain, in order to procrastinate one thing, it's willing to do a bunch of things I hate for other things. Right. Like the number one thing I want to get done is what it will procrastinate. Yeah. And so I weirdly can leverage that procrastination into getting a million other things done.
I'm so good at like going to the grocery store or cleaning. Like I love to do a task because then I'm like, hell yeah. I did something. It was easy. It takes nothing to go to the grocery store.
Yep. Like that moment of resistance, like when you think about what you need to get done in your head, that procrastinator, that's like, no. I turned that feeling into like, okay, if you don't want to do it so bad, let's go clean the house. And then it's like, okay, let's go.
Literally anything else.
Yep. And so that's like one productive way I've been able to handle it. But yeah.
Yeah, that's smart.
Okay, so let's get into the disgust. This is one I'm very curious about. Okay, so the first question, looking at the trigger or the stimulus of your disgust, what is the object of your disgust? What's it pointed at?
The part of me that is endlessly seeking comfort and, undeserved pleasure and,
Habits?
Yeah, just like the urge, like the indulgence. Everybody says that they were like born in the wrong time, but I genuinely think that like I'm not built for comfort. I'm built for like war and tribulations and you know what I mean? Like I thrive in very chaotic, difficult, unpleasant, like riding your bike for 60 miles. Mm-hmm. Like I was pushing that thing like I was trying to kill myself with it. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. But then as soon as I am comfortable, my brain just like seeks that out and wants nothing else. And everything else by comparison is just like undoable. Yeah. You know what I mean? Like I'm not made for this level of comfort, essentially.
Yeah, your braid and your facial hair kind of reads as you were made for rowing a longboat to go raid a village.
Yeah, exactly.
In the icy cold.
I need to be uncomfortable. That's what I'm,
Okay, interesting. I'm excited to get into that in the second half and whether or not that might just be a limiting belief, but we're going to save that for later. Okay, so that's the object. So describe the values that feel misaligned. Is it just that you want to be able to rise above it?
Yeah, I just feel like I'm capable of so much more, but I'm content with just getting by because I'm so high functional and like my getting by is still doing pretty well, but it just is like so shameful to squander. You know what I mean?
I feel like this is something that a lot of people can relate to, which is when we were young, we had the talent, we had the smarts where we didn't have to do more than the 15 minutes of rushed homework and we got passing grades. Yeah. And we watched other kids like really struggle in class or struggle to understand concepts. And we kind of just would dick off in our heads and be like, okay, yeah, got it. And we're good. But later in life now, especially like getting into your like mid-30s, you realize that the kids who didn't have talent but who had the work ethic are now surpassing you. Yeah. When you see their careers, you're like, oh shit. Yeah. Leaning on talent too hard is like.
And the thing is, like, I pick things up so quickly and I hyperfixate. And then I obsess and I get pretty good at something and then I just will like get sick of it and it's not compelling anymore. And then I just don't like. I have so many random kind of like talents that don't make any sense because I would just like pick stuff up. Like I'm pretty competitive at table tennis. I used to be good at chess, like design and art, rock climbing, martial arts, like just something will capture your attention. And I'm just like obsessive. It's all I think about. And I'm also like very good at breaking things down to their like most essential components in order to be able to understand it, which helps me pick things up. But then after a while, when it's not novel and exciting, like the keeping up with it, I just like, you know what I mean?
The novelty is like a key ingredient.
Yeah. It's like essential. And so you kind of like, you get a head start, but it's a marathon, you know what I mean? Like really dedicating yourself to something. And I just have the hardest time with that.
This is like dangerous territory, but like, have you found that affects relationships as well? Because that feels like an area of life that would be brutally hit by that feeling.
Yeah. At this point, I'm starting to realize that, it probably is.
Okay. So that's the values that are misaligned. So with trust and disgust, the intensity of those emotions, to me, I think kind of the underlying, the fulcrum with those emotions is a level of susceptibility. Like if I am feeling too much trust towards a person, part of me questions like, what do I need that's making me want to welcome this person so much?
Mm-hmm.
Or with disgust, it's like if people have really intense reactions of disgust, it's like, like homophobia is kind of like, do you feel like they can turn you? Like there's a susceptibility.
Are you worried about
behind
something?
it. Yeah. Like your level of disgust is kind of indicting you.
Yeah. Sir, thou doth protest too much.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. And so with this disgust though, why, maybe talk about if you think there's a susceptibility underneath it and why do you feel susceptible? You feel disgust towards your own kind of habits, behaviors.
Yeah.
And is that level of disgust because you really feel like you could do better? Kind of like, come on, man, like we're better than this.
Yeah, because I feel like I should be able to, because like I said, when I make up my mind to do something, my focus is unshakable. I have so much grit, which is, helped me through a lot of tough times. So I know I have that in me if I could make up my mind to do something. And so just the fact that I'm not able to make up my mind for these things that I claim to care about, is upsetting.
Totally.
Because I know that it's in there.
Yeah. And maybe like the susceptibility is kind of self-evident just in like going on another bender. It's like, I didn't want to do that. I wanted to stop and I couldn't do it. Yeah. Well, I'm obviously susceptible.
Yeah.
Okay. And so how are you inclined to reject this? Like when you get frustrated with yourself and in those moments like, oh, you fucking idiot. Are you inclined to indulge in like self-loathing or to lean even further into the indulgence, or do you go the opposite and then like treat yourself like a drill sergeant
Yeah. I mean, it's been different through different times. I would say recently it's, just like self-loathing and kind of like getting down on yourself. And then it's usually making a plan for tomorrow to do it better that sometimes pans out and sometimes doesn't.
And do you feel shame around it?
I don't know if shame is the right word, but
the combination of disgust and fear is shame. The combination of disgust and anger is contempt.
Yeah, I think that's probably closer to it.
Because I don't feel shame in those moments. I'm not a very shameful person.
No, yeah, that's kind of
maybe I should have more shame.
Yeah,
but I do.
And also, I don't feel shame because it's just me evaluating myself. You know what I mean? I'm the one coming up with these standards, and there's no other input involved. And so I don't know. I just feel like shame is maybe not the right, but contempt definitely.
Yeah. And I think that is because just the difference between fear and anger, which would be the difference of shame or contempt when combined with disgust, is a perceived. I guess I'm jumping ahead, but there's our perceived ability to address the threat. If we feel like we're incapable of addressing this threat, we're more likely to feel fear. But if we perceive ourselves as like, oh, I can do this, we're more likely to feel anger.
Exactly.
So I think that's where the contempt comes from rather than shame. Okay, well, let's jump into anger. I think this is going to be a good one. Okay, so the trigger of anger, first question, what is the source of the threat? Because anger is responding to a threat. So is the source of the threat, I think it's kind of similar to...
just the inability to
the habits,
take control of this thing that you want to, even though it's completely within your control. But
the inability to moderate all of it. Okay. Describe what it's threatening.
Stability,
being able to relax, having a lifestyle where you can relax.
Yeah.
Okay.
And just staying on top of your shit, basically.
Underlying anger and fear, for something to be registered as a threat in our mind, there's some level of vulnerability. Yeah. It's kind of like if there's a little bug on the table, I'm not going to be fearful because I know it can't hurt me. But if there's a poisonous snake on the table, well, I feel far more vulnerable to a poisonous snake. So why do you feel vulnerable to this?
I think probably just because of my experience and all the things that I've been through. Like I said, I haven't touched hard drugs in a very long time, but there is always that underlying, like, what if I am not able to keep it together and it all falls apart. And you know what I mean? It's not very realistic because, like I said, I feel like I have the more severe symptoms under control, but there's always that kind of like hesitation or trauma or whatever. You're like, what if I slip too far one time and it all just falls apart? And you know what I mean?
I mean, I definitely think there is something to be said for your past and the bad habits and the benders compared to now.
Yeah, for sure.
Like there's a few answers you've given in here where it seems like you're resolved to never improving, but there's like an obvious improvement that we could point to.
No, for sure.
So it feels like there's hope. But let's close this out. So how are you inclined to confront this? This is a big one. This is an important one with anger.
Yeah.
Because anger can respond in incredibly destructive ways or incredibly productive ways.
Yeah, I was going to say, usually when I do feel anger, that is the thing that pushes me to move in the right direction. The problem is I'm not that angry anymore. When I was younger, I was so angry. It was like a problem. And now that I'm like well-adjusted and, you know, empathetic, all these things, I'm just like not that angry anymore. And I almost miss it a little bit.
Totally. Well, I was just going to suggest, I was like, if anger tends to be the catalyst that pushes you in the right direction with the, you know, the teeter-totter, then I think maybe trying to like improve your relationship with anger and figuring out how to tap into it is like a good tool to put in the tool belt.
That is so funny because I've heard, I used to be very also, when I was younger and less mature, I was also very spite motivated. Like I could get anything done through spite. And then, you know, like I said, as I got more grounded and like maybe cared less about what people think and just like have empathy, like I just stopped getting that spite. And I've heard that you shouldn't use spite as a motivator for that reason, because if you lose it, then you're left without the thing that you rely on to motivate you. But you're saying you can effectively channel anger.
Oh yeah. I like personally that's a recommendation that I would have is improving your relationship with anger, understanding.
I might have overcorrected. I'm too calm now. I need to get more angry.
I mean, because like of the 8 emotions, this is the one that you need to call upon to affect change.
Yeah.
And so part of the reason I give the disclaimer about the theory of emotions and Darwin and Dr. Plutchik is because I think a lot of people unfairly demonize a lot of emotions.
Yeah.
They look at, you know, anger and fear as these negative emotions that we should get rid of. I totally disagree. I think all 8 emotions are essential. And so with anger, for example, I think everyone looks at that as something you need to temper, which is true. You need to temper it, but not get rid of it. I think...
Then I might have overcorrected because I got my dad's temper for sure, and it was like a problem when I was younger. And so I think like I worked at it so much that maybe I overcorrected, and I need to figure out how to bring it back in a more like controlled manner.
I mean, I think a difference between maybe the temper, your dad's temper that you got, is in what triggers it.
Yeah.
Because if anger is triggered by something as, let's say, petty as like, oh, someone called me a name and I just flew off the handle. Well, that's obviously not productive.
Right.
But if you could figure out a way to trigger the same intense anger that your dad had, but what triggers it is these things. Yeah. Right? You're sad because there's a lifestyle that you want that you think you can't have, or you're disgusted with certain behaviors or habits. Well, if you turn the pieces of evidence into the trigger for intense anger, then I think you could tap into it more often to stop the backsliding moments. I don't know. Just a thought. Okay, so last step for intuition, which is kind of looking at the bigger picture, just summarizing each of these rows. With sadness, it was bummed because there's a lifestyle, the grass is greener on this other side of this hill, and you feel like a slave to your own...
Yeah, just basically missing out on the ability to just relax and coast, essentially.
Okay. But that sadness is in telling you what you care about. Yeah. There is something we could chase. Disgust is misalignment with your own habits.
Yeah. Okay. My aspirations versus the things that I'm actually manifesting.
Okay. And anger, it's a response to
the threat of potentially not being able to keep it together and, falling back further than before.
Okay, cool. Then we will move on to management. Okay, so moving into management, we've still got our same situation. And
Unfortunately.
Yep.
It hasn't changed.
Still here, it didn't go away. But for management, a quick description of that, it's the ability to regulate thoughts, feelings, and actions. It takes the blueprint of our awareness and challenges the initial experience. It's our ability to think critically and guide our responses in productive directions. So separate from the feelings now, those emotions, and bring things into perspective. Concentrate on results.
Okay.
So first, a couple questions for you. Context and coping. Is the root of the problem in your control?
I'd say that's a matter of perspective.
I think there's a debate to be had here.
Yeah. I mean, the core of the problem is probably not, but the way that I address it is, I'm sure. I hope.
I definitely think like there's an extent to which it's outside of your control.
Yeah.
Like the ADHD isn't going to go away with affirmations.
Yeah. Just have dopamine regulation problems. You can't do anything about that.
And so, if it's not in your control, then you need to focus on how you can change your relationship with it. If it is in your control, just work on what you can do to improve it. But if it's not, change your relationship. And I think that's something that's like...
What's your approach?
I think... So I have ADHD too, and I've been working with an ADHD coach for the last 3 years. And he's awesome because his entire approach is basically saying neurodivergent people, you have to change your relationship with your focus because, society has been built for doing your homework like a good little boy, And so I think there's a lot that can be done in changing your relationship with it to kind of recognize the strengths that it gives you.
Yeah, maybe I need a coach. I've just been raw dogging it this whole time and just trying to white knuckle it.
I mean, it's nice. The stuff that he and I do, he kind of focuses on niching up, or what he calls talent stacking, which is our attention can't be held by one passion. So we have to do things that incorporate multiple of our passions.
Right.
Which is really nice. And the example that he gives that I love is David Bowie. David Bowie tried to make it in the music scene for 9 years, I think, before he actually got big. And what he did was he went from just making songs and just performing like a regular dude. But he eventually stacked a bunch of his talents into one, which was he combined music with avant-garde theater, with makeup and character work, and Ziggy Stardust was born. And it held his attention a lot more, and he felt like his creative spirit just was finally empowered because there was a lot more to hold his attention. And so that's kind of the genesis of Ziggy Stardust.
Yeah,
and
really smart.
And Catharsis, I was working with this coach before Catharsis was a thing. And he very much is who helped me come up with the whole vision and everything. And so this was my love of board games.
Yeah.
It was my background and love of psychology. It was wanting to do facilitation work and workshops. And then, all the grander ambitions of Catharsis all into one project. And weirdly, nothing has held my attention more than this project in my entire life. Because I'm normally the same as you, where it's unfinished project after unfinished project on the shelf. Where I'm I'm kind of good at piano. I'm kind of good at this. I'm kind of good at this.
Yeah.
So anyway, that's something to consider maybe when we move into innovation.
Yeah, yeah.
So the next question, though, what's the most important thing in this situation?
I think probably making up my mind that it needs to be a certain way, or I don't know, maybe attitude, because the issue is keeping it up, because I can usually do it for periods of time, but then after a while it starts to feel like a prison and I get restless. And I don't blow it all up anymore, but I definitely, will waver. So probably attitude and perspective on it.
Okay. Almost like you think you could get to a point where you enjoy it? Is that kind of what you're saying?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, because that's what they say that about a lot of things, right? You have to learn to enjoy the process. Bodybuilding, for instance, is a grind. and it's, winning. They also, a lot of the times they also say that like in any athletic endeavor or whatever, like the victory is sometimes hollow because you achieved your goal and then you're like, now what?
Oh, totally.
And so in order to avoid that, you have to learn to just love the process, love the grind, so that it's about the journey, not the destination. So yeah.
I mean, I like that. Cool, we're done. Okay, so coping strategies. I think this will be a good one. I'm going to read this. When facing an amount or type of stress that we aren't able to manage, we all resort to our coping mechanisms. A form of compromise, coping buys us momentary comfort at a cost. Our distressed feelings can be soothed or numbed. Uncomfortable thoughts can be bargained with or indulged. Our strategy is going to be picked for us until we consciously intervene. So what is an example of an unhealthy coping mechanism you've used in the past? I think everything we're talking about.
Yeah. But also, I mean, those are kind of like the symptoms, but I would say specifically for dealing with this discomfort, it's like, well, I'll do better tomorrow. And then just, accept this feeling now because we're going to try harder tomorrow and it's going to be better, and then don't worry about it.
Mm-hmm. One question. A lot of people, let's just take like substance abuse. A lot of people, where that comes from is it's a coping strategy. They're numbing something. But for you, you wouldn't say the intention is numbing. It's just pleasure seeking.
Yeah, it's sensation seeking. Yeah.
Okay. And so
and I do that with everything.
It's not like you're avoiding something. It's like you're just leaning into what you really like.
I get restless, and because I don't have sufficient dopamine, that if I like something, I do a lot of it. And that applies to everything. Like, one of my exes pointed out that she could time my relapses based on when I started eating a lot of candy and playing too many video games. Because she's like, oh, that's not going to be enough eventually. And then he's going to look for something else. But like, yeah, I ride my bike like it's crack. I, lift weights until I can't move. Like, just anything, like any sort of sensation. I was a wild dude. I've ridden a bull twice. A live bull because somebody said, I bet you won't. And I was like, I bet. Yeah. You know what I mean? Like, I've done some wild shit just like trying to experience things.
Mm-hmm. Okay. And so you wouldn't consider that coping mechanisms though. That's the chase.
Yeah.
Okay. So what are an example of an unhealthy coping mechanism in the past?
Like I said,
eating candy?
No, because those are the symptoms, right? The thing we're dealing with is like the discomfort with maintenance, right? So if I wouldn't maintain an unhealthy coping mechanism, would be like, well, I'll do better tomorrow, and so I can just write this off because we'll figure it out finally tomorrow. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean?
Tomorrow,
so just like pushing
tomorrow.
Yeah, mm-hmm. We fucked up today, but it'll be fine.
Mm-hmm. Okay. And what makes that unhealthy?
That you can just push it off forever.
It kind of enables
infinity. Yeah,
today. Looking to tomorrow, it completely enables today. That's true. Yeah. I have a bad habit too, where it's like sometimes if it's past like 6 p.m., I'm like, it's impossible to be productive after 6 p.m. But it's always like, tomorrow.
Or like the times when like maybe I'm not being as good about the rules that I have, and I do open my phone early. I'm like, well, it's already fucked, so I'm just gonna play on it. It doesn't matter. I'm not even gonna try to redirect because I already screwed up. I already know it's not.
It's tainted. Yeah. Okay, so next question: what is a healthy coping mechanism that you could use in this situation?
I would say maybe like reframing and like gratitude rather than being frustrated that I have to deal with this. Being grateful that will never, be able to be a person that just stays complacent, because I know that bad things come from that. And so I have to actively work to avoid it. And so in that way, it's kind of like a blessing that's really tough, that it kind of like will avoid mediocrity, because I'm just cannot allow myself to get complacent, because that leads to damnation. So I guess, maybe reframing it in that way.
Okay. I guess that, I see how that's a coping mechanism, but part of me just sees that as like more regulation than a coping mechanism. It just feels like the work.
Yeah.
The right thing to do.
Well, I'm saying reframing it and being grateful for the work.
Oh, okay.
To cope with it.
Gotcha.
So that like it's
changing
just a shift in perspective. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Okay. I think, but you also gave a few examples where like going super hardcore with biking. That's a kind of a healthy coping mechanism. It's better than going on a bender.
Yeah, the problem is with that is that eventually you have physical limits, right?
Totally.
So then when you do it so much that your body gets worn down and now you can't do the thing and now you're stuck without the outlet, then that also can lead in that. I've run into that many times where I would just like overdo the exercise until I was physically so worn down that I can't. And now you have to take a break and now you don't have an outlet.
No, I can't do any of the physical activities. Yeah. Yeah.
So maybe that would be a healthy coping mechanism if I could do it in a healthy way, but that's part of the dilemma.
Okay, so let's do a stress inventory super quick. This card just takes a quick inventory of other areas of your life outside of this situation that might be contributing stress. And because it's good to be cognizant of where our stress is coming from to make sure that we're not projecting stress from something outside of this onto this situation. We're just going to figure out if these areas of stress are trending in a more positive direction or negative. So when it comes to health, my overall pain levels have been comfortable or draining?
Comfortable, I would say. I've started exercising consistently again and been eating clean and getting decent sleep.
Nice. Nice. My diet, water intake, and exercise have been.
Yeah.
There we go. Thank you. What's the next card say? My sleep schedule has been mostly consistent or erratic.
Consistent.
Good. So a couple environment questions about your environment. The media that I watch, listen to, and read makes me feel more inspired or upset.
Recently upset.
Yeah, I get that. The cleanliness of my home or bedroom brings me feelings of comfort or distress.
I would say indifference.
Okay. That's comfort.
Yeah.
If it's not providing, or if it's not contributing stress, then that's a good thing. Yeah. My workload at school, work, or home feels predominantly in control or overwhelming.
I would say underwhelming.
Well, it's definitely,
which is also a stressor in this situation.
That's true.
Because if I'm not engaged, then that contributes, but that's
a good point.
Come to an end. So,
okay, moving on to social. The outlooks of those around me have seemed mostly uplifting or gloomy.
I would say uplifting.
Okay.
We got you and Keely.
Come hang, yeah, I know. I'm always like, let's get the whiteboard. Life's amazing. My support system and those I can lean on have felt close by or distant.
I'm kind of torn on that one. They're definitely close by if I was looking for it, but as you know, I tend to isolate, so.
This is about them, though.
Oh, okay, then yeah, close by.
Yeah, just having somebody to call on. Okay, and the attitudes toward who I am and where I am in my life have seemed more accepting or judgmental.
Accepting.
Cool. And last category, actions. My efforts to reach out and show up for those I care about were proactive or static?
Static.
Okay. The promises that I've made to myself and others were mostly kept or neglected?
I gotta say, probably leaning towards neglected,
Okay.
or at least for myself. I tend to keep my promises to others, but.
And last one, by my own measure of productivity, I have been productive or complacent. All right. Okay, so that's, anyway, this is a nice little check-in to make sure that we're not projecting stress from other areas of our life into the current situation. But it's also just interesting. Yeah. Okay, now let's move into accountability.
Oh.
This is where I've been excited to get to. So quick disclaimer.
Didn't you say you had something going on?
Yeah.
Right now?
Shoot. You have to leave. So cognitive distortions is pretty simple. Since you're just going to essentially be looking at and reading a couple examples. So there's 6 on each side. So go ahead and read through those. And your criteria for which you choose, it could be what's interesting, what do you need to work on, what are you guilty of? It's totally up to you.
What do you? I want to know what you think because I know you have opinions, and I think I could guess.
In this situation,
yeah.
Right? I would think maybe catastrophizing, possibly black and white thinking.
Yeah. Filtering.
Mm-hmm. So ignoring the positives, choosing instead to only focus on all the negatives of a person or situation. It's a pretty good one. Example, yes, all my friends came to my party, but my brother didn't come. Catastrophizing, imagining worst case scenarios, no matter how improbable or unhelpful they are to consider. Phrased often as, well, what if this headache is a tumor? Okay, what's an example of filtering in this situation? Not recognizing the huge improvements you've made.
Yeah, yeah. Uh-huh. Definitely not that. And then also I would say probably just ignoring, like, yes, it may be a pain to have to constantly be present and aware of this thing, but like even when I am not doing it to the best of my ability, my life is wonderful, basically. You know what I mean? Outside of this, like, so to even, you know, if I'm coasting and having a hard time, like not appreciating everything else that's going well. Yeah.
Okay. That's awesome. Let's try radical acceptance. This is probably the most complex thing in the deck, but I think it might be great for your situation. So based on the notion that suffering comes not directly from pain, but from one's attachment to pain, radical acceptance is the ability to accept situations that are outside of your control without judging them, which in turn reduces suffering that is caused by them. So non-attachment does not mean not feeling emotions. Rather, it refers to an intention of not allowing pain to turn into suffering. So does that feel relevant? Would you say that you're resisting something that's outside of your control?
Yeah.
Okay. Let's move through this. So step one is awareness. Pay attention to what triggers resistance, or notice when you can't accept something. Describe something in the situation that comes to mind.
Just the entire concept that the frustration with having to do this when, you know, it's abundantly clear that it's necessary. So I could just accept it and move on instead of feeling this like frustration. Like, yeah, this is a thing that I have to deal with, and that's just what it is.
Okay. What are the reasons that this is outside of your control?
I mean, I would say it's outside of my control because of brain chemistry.
I was just going to say brain chemistry. That's a pretty decent reason for something to be outside of your control. Okay. So what about the situation is difficult to accept? You're clearly bashing your head against a wall with it. Yeah. So what is it that you're not accepting?
Maybe I don't have a problem. Maybe it's all just
in your head.
Yeah. And I just no, it's not really an issue, you know. But and just the, you know, the nature of fulfilling what you have to do, it just becomes tedious and monotonous, and it's just like, do I really have to do these things? Maybe I can just take a break.
Yeah.
And that's why it kind of comes in waves. And then you're reminded why you can't take a break, and then you kind of reset. I mean, you know, in fairness, the waves have gotten significantly more shallow and less frequent, so.
Which is awesome.
Yeah.
What thoughts or beliefs do you have that make it hard to accept?
Just a really bad memory. Like, no, I think it'll be fine this time.
Okay. What is the impact on your overall well-being of resisting and not accepting this situation?
Oh, it just makes me miserable.
Well, yeah, I think that kind of that omnipresent sadness that you were talking about is...
Because it's like having to deal with, you know, being present and aware, and on top of that, the resistance, you just like am adding to it.
Yeah. Of the three emotions we went through, I feel like the sadness is kind of the one that is resisting what's outside of your control.
Yeah.
It's wanting a life and a brain chemistry that you're not going to have.
Yeah.
So let's look towards acceptance then and figure out what that would look like in this situation. So how might acceptance be different from resignation or giving up?
Man, that's tough. Because sometimes I feel like, until you just brought that up, I hadn't considered it. I had this idea that maybe I had overdone the acceptance, that I had become so accepting that I was just indifferent about certain things.
Mm-hmm.
But
there's a big difference.
Yeah.
Between acceptance and resignation. Well,
I'm becoming aware of that now.
Because, I mean, just like one little way that you could do it is kind of like what I was just saying about the ADHD coach, and figuring out the ways to utilize the ADHD. And rather than looking at it as this thing that's keeping you from this lifestyle where you don't have to be vigilant, this sadness, this bummed feeling, instead looking at what the other path provides, the path that you are on.
Yeah.
I think that's just not resigning yourself, but it's going, okay, I'm not going to be on that path, but that's okay. I'm going to be on this one. Let's look at what the perks are.
Yeah.
Downside. Well, I'm aware of what the downsides are, but let's look at what the perks are of this other path.
And maybe not letting, blips derail the entire thing. Mm-hmm. Just accepting that you're going to make mistakes, mm-hmm. but that doesn't knock you off course. You just keep moving.
Yeah.
Don't let yourself become frustrated and mm-hmm. upset by them.
Mm-hmm. If you were to practice radical acceptance for this, what would it look like?
A shift in perspective on the maintenance and the things that I have to do, and just enjoying the process, essentially. Just not fighting the fact that it has to be done, and just doing it because it just has to be done.
Accepting it.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yes. Okay. And how can accepting this improve your life?
Yeah. It just removes the additional friction of being miserable about the thing that you have to do regardless.
Oh, just that. the friction of being miserable. Yeah. Uh-huh. Okay. And so what's a step that you could take towards acceptance?
Maybe more gratitude journaling.
I was just going to say, what about
I have been lacking in the journaling recently. Which is funny because it's the similar kind of friction to the maintenance. Journaling is a part of the maintenance, but it makes me feel better every time. Mm-hmm. But I still just let it get away from me.
Mm-hmm. But maybe dedicating a journal entry here and there to just exploring or literally brainstorming what the other path looks like. Yeah. What it affords you that a neurotypical person does not have. I think that could be something.
Certainly.
I'm going to leave it on this one since I thought that was poignant, the difference between acceptance and resignation.
Yeah, that is.
Okay, cool. Let's move on to our last section, which is innovation. Innovation is kind of how we come up with silver linings and a more productive way to move forward. Now, last exercise is the cognitive triangle. This is kind of a staple in cognitive behavioral therapy, which looks at the relationship between feelings, thoughts, and behaviors, and how they're very interlinked, and that they each inspire each other. Now, our feelings we can't directly change. We can't just say, I want to feel happy now, or I want to turn off my sadness now. Mm-hmm. But we can directly change our thoughts over time with conscious effort, and we can change our behaviors that easily. Mm-hmm. So if we want to, let's identify, what do you want to feel the most? What's the most ideal feeling that you would love to have coursing through you?
Contentment.
Really?
Yeah.
Interesting. Okay. So you feel discontent.
Yeah.
Okay. So what are some thoughts that you can try your best to employ that would inspire a feeling of contentment and inspire better behaviors?
Being aware and grateful for these other things, these attributes that I have that kind of balance out this one negative thing. Although it seems very negative and imposing. Yeah. By contrast, I'm blessed in a lot of ways.
Mm-hmm. And sometimes focusing on pain makes it much worse.
Yeah.
So if we point our focus somewhere else, suddenly the pain's not as bad as we thought it was. Yeah. Okay. So that's a good one. So what about behaviors? A similar thing that might inspire a feeling of contentment or inspire better thoughts. Something that you could do, like
journaling
right away. Mm-hmm.
is definitely up there. Honestly, walking, when I was walking consistently, I feel like my head would just like clear up immediately, and I got shredded from it. But yeah, just it's so interesting how just moving at 3-4 miles an hour just like clears your head of everything so quickly.
Have you seen that? Like they've done brain scans of people going on walks, and it's like just simply like walking lights up the whole brain.
Yeah. And you just like have ideas. But it's another thing like journaling that just like there's this friction with it for some reason. But I think, I need to just do it without thinking about it. Because once you start the activity, immediately you get the positive benefit, but it's like the contemplation of it. I think you just need to remove the decision, just be like, it's happening.
Totally. A body that is in the free fall of a decision being made can't be reasoned with.
Yeah.
The part of your brain that wants to constantly be like, well, what if, maybe if we, like literally you can't reason with a body that's just moving.
Yeah.
And then it's like, all right, well, I have to just make it impossible for my mind to try and bargain with me.
It's so funny because that's kind of like how I approach like chores, where I just take out the trash because it has to be taken out and it doesn't matter how I feel about it. Like there's so many little things that I kind of take this approach with that, I think.
I really like that. I mean, walking, I think that's a behavior that you can do right away or every morning.
And maybe getting a coach.
Or getting a coach. A coach is awesome. If you need it, if you need one. Yeah, we can talk about that more. But okay, so that concludes, and we can move to our response. Normally, we can review everything that we went through pillar by pillar, but I think we're probably pretty good. And so instead...
You've thoroughly shamed me.
No. We can just take a deep breath, and you know what to do. There you go. To my fellow introspectors, a reminder that your focus and your conscious attention is like a watering can. Whatever you choose to point it at, for better or worse, will grow. So let this be a reminder, a moment, a request that you take a couple minutes today to point that conscious attention in a good direction, towards something that you care about, towards someone that you love, whatever it might be. Just do it. Thanks for tuning in to this episode of Catharsis Sessions. I'm Dashiell Wolf, and I'll catch you on the next one.